Hello. So, personal branding is really important for your professional life because it helps create loyalty in your relationships and sometimes, I find that people will dismiss it. They might say, "Oh, well, I just want to do my job." I hear that sometimes. Or sometimes people will say, "Well, I'm not a consultant or I'm not a marketer, so it doesn't really matter, right? I'm not a salesperson. Never mind, right?" But I'm here to tell you that it matters. And you don't have to be a consultant, or you don't have to be a salesperson or even a speaker for it to matter. Even if you work for someone else, if you're a part of a nonprofit team, your personal brand, it matters because, one day you might find yourself managing a family crisis, or you might suffer with chronic pain and have mood swings for a while, or some other major life event, and you might start dropping balls on deadlines, right? And people are going to be much more willing to work with you or give you a little bit of leeway if you have a solid personal brand. And I speak from experience, and when you maintain a personal brand of integrity, it helps with your business because the reality is that life happens, and it's messy, and sometimes we have to ask others for help or for a little leeway and a period of grace, right? And people are going to give that to you if you have a solid reputation of integrity and of helpfulness already, right? The other thing that you should keep in mind as we're talking today is that you already have a personal brand. You already have a personal brand. It's communicated through the words that you choose, through your body language, your tone, your clothes, and in your results at work, right? So are you the person that everybody goes to come in and they can depend on you and swoop in and maybe help out if somebody else needs a little help? Or are you that person? Can people depend on you? Or are you the other person who people can't depend on, or maybe you go back and forth, right? And there isn't any consistency in your brand. So today I want to talk about ways that you can enhance your personal brand. And it's not a one size fits all solution. So I want you to think about what points apply to you and use them, adopt them into your life. And then, throw away the rest, whatever doesn't work. Because branding is both your online reputation and your offline reputation. And some of you out there, whether you're working for a nonprofit, as a consultant, in a company, as an employee, when it comes to branding, I know this, you're not playing with a complete Mr. Potato Head. And so today I'm going to discuss some elements, both online and both offline, that you can do, that you can have and start incorporating so you have a complete Mr. Potato Head. And the tips I share today can be implemented to help you build a brand that you're proud of. My name is Christina Aldan. I'm Lucky Girly Girl everywhere on the interwebs. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I also want to say thank you so much to Dev Around the Sun. This has been an amazing experience for me to work with such incredible organizers and the production team. I mean, I've learned so much about live streaming. It's been fantastic. And so the Live Coders stream team has just been unbelievable. And they've been keeping us running for nearly 20 hours straight now. If you want to donate, I would love for us in this last leg to get up over that $22,000 mark. That would be great. Here's the link. So yeah, I work with people who are doing the Mr. Potato Head approach to personal branding. Look, I brought toys. Yeah, look. Try not to be jealous of my Darth Tater, okay? Yeah. I think that when sometimes people, they wonder how to become visible online, but they wonder too late, right? And so if you're working with an incomplete branding strategy, it can really be hard to gain any traction because with branding, you build. And that's how branding works. And in my world, in branding and digital advertising, we sometimes hear how it'll take a person 21 interactions before the information sticks. We have all of these distractions. We have so many different, things to take our attention that people these days, they need 21 times, 21 interactions, engagements before something sticks. And that means that they have to have that same consistent experience 21 times. And I see it all the time. People, you're not working with a complete Mr. Potato Head. You're not. And yes, just so you know, no Mr. Potato Heads were hurt in this talk, but there was a full photo shoot with Mr. Potato Head and all his parts. So today I'm going to share some important components about personal branding that a lot of people are missing. With branding strategy, you really have to make sure that you're including all of the parts. And why is that? Well, consistent brand presentation across all platforms increases revenue by up to 23%. I'm not just telling you this because it's touchy-feely. I'm telling you this because there are measurable results that you get from this. So, if you're focused on presenting yourself consistently on Twitter, on Instagram, on your website, on your business cards. I see it sometimes where people will have a green business card, they'll have a purple website, and then their LinkedIn will be red, and none of it. Remember, 21 times of consistent messaging. That has to happen. The other thing, 38% of users will stop interacting with a website if the layout's unattractive. So I have this sometimes where I'll work with somebody and they think, okay, well, now I want to go out and find a job. And they hadn't been working on their personal brand up until now. They just thought about it. And they just throw up a website, and it might be ugly, or it might, not a whole lot of thought put into it. And they go, well, whatever. It's fine. It has the data in there. The data are in there. They have my name. In fact, 38% of users will stop interacting with your website if it's not attractive. So it's important to have that consistent branding across all your platforms. 39% of users, they'll stop engaging if the images don't load, right? So speed is important. And 64% of consumers say shared values, they help them create a trusted relationship with a brand. And remember, I started out saying relationship, a personal brand, so you can have that loyalty in your followers. How do we do it? Well, creating an emotional connection with your audience is important. And I talk a lot about emotional intelligence or your EQ, your emotional quotient, and creating that emotional connection with your audience is important. How do we do that? Well, you got to tell a story. People love telling stories. People love hearing the information as it weaves through a story. We're going to remember it a lot more if it's a story that maybe we can relate to, or we can see ourselves, put ourselves in your shoes. So think about how you're telling the story of you, right? Your work tells the story, your how you show up tells the story, how you're dressed tells the story. It's important to think about that. We connect through stories. The other thing is that you can use emotional triggers. So, emotional triggers will inspire your audience into action, and it encourages them to engage with you. Also, you should show a values match, your core values. This is all what I'm about. Right? For example, we're doing a fundraiser right now. It shows that we have a core values of community. It shows that, we have a core value of helping. And so, people will connect around that same core value. And that's how you can really connect your brand with other people. The other thing you can do is you can offer incentives. You can incentivize people, and you can offer them maybe thinking about what your audience already likes and what they already might be motivated to do, and you can incentivize them. So let's just talk really quickly about emotional intelligence. I could talk about this for another 24 hours, really. How much time we got? Are you good at production? Like what? No. So I just got one slide, I swear. Okay, so emotional quotient. There are 4 parts when we're talking about your emotional quotient or your EQ instead of your IQ. We talk about awareness of self, awareness of others, managing yourself, and managing others. When you can break down those emotional triggers into these components, it really helps you identify what is going to motivate your users and at what stage of their engagement. So we can break things down into these 4 parts and how we are connecting with our audience. Remember, on all platforms, you've got to be consistent. So the first thing that I want to talk about is your SEO. And yes, this is where our Mr. Potato Head body starts. So what happens is sometimes, people will put up a website, they put up a blog. I see this with developers a lot because we could do it, right? You can pop something up overnight. You can get yourself a medium, whatever that is. But they think that's good enough, and it's not. A website, a blog, it's useless if nobody's visiting it, including the search engines. So you have to make sure to include search engine optimization. And I know that for programmers and developers, they're used to building how the metadata is processed, but they aren't always really good at coming up with the metadata or all of the other keys. So I'm just going to go through a couple of points here, and then think about your website and think about your blog. Maybe you're missing a few of these little things. Remember, you've got to have all the parts if you want to have a complete Mr. Potato Head. So the first thing I want to talk about for SEO is on-page and off-page SEO. The next thing I want to talk about is consistency. And I'm talking about being consistent in the messaging, being consistent in putting out content, in a timeline, being consistent in your tone of your messages. It's really, really confusing to your audience if you are upbeat and bright one day, and then you're cantankerous and kind of grumpy the next, or maybe on Facebook you're super political and confrontational, but then over on LinkedIn you're very polished and well, it's confusing to people. So you have to be consistent in your tone and in what you're putting out. Remember, people have to see it 21 times before it sticks in our heads. Got to take care of your broken links. And when I say that, I mean both internal and external links. Also is security. You have to have a nice secure site. At the absolute minimum, you must have an SSL certificate for your website or your blog. The other thing is having original content. Posting original content is key. So you want to avoid plagiarism, but I also want to encourage you to put out research type content that people want to use to reference. Maybe they're doing a paper, they're writing an article, they are doing a review. And every now and then, it makes sense to put out a longer piece of content, a research type of content, a white paper, infographics, stuff like that. It takes more time, but it's really worth it because the metrics tell us that there's a lot more engagement when that happens. And one of my collaborators, she'll post a 1,000-word blog post or a summary about the latest research, every once a month or so, and people reference it all the time in their talks and their articles, things like that. So posting research type content is important. Something that people don't think about is voice search. So what voice search is, you probably know, most of our viewers probably know if you're a developer, but voice search, it allows users to speak into a device to do a search. So the key here is to know that the results will only give the most relevant options. So optimization is really important. The content that you put out, it should be conversational and natural. Think of how people are going to speak into their phones to find you or to find your new startup or to find your new business, right? You should think about those types of things and how people are going to land on your blog. The data tell us that nearly half of voice search users search daily for local businesses. Speed is important of your site. Prioritizing all mobile content, got to have that. And then screen readers, text and images, it's not accessible no matter what, but highly stylized fonts, it can reduce legibility for a variety of cognitive and visual impairments. So if we look at this one right here, even on social media, screen readers, this is an example of how that fancy text, even though it's not highly stylized, it just doesn't show up on Instagram. So this screenshot would actually read, to get caught up on my podcast episodes and sign up for my online sales training. Online learning will help you during these strange times. So, it's important to consider those screen readers. And of course, you got to make sure your website's compliant with the ADA of 1990 as well. The next one, now we're getting some Mr. Potato Head feet here. The next one, I want to separate out LinkedIn from the other social media accounts because for all you introverts out there, I wanted to let you know you can still network even if you're an introvert. So you can use LinkedIn, like making sure, for example, that your photo represents you well, making sure that your profile, your summary is accurate and it matches the tone of how you work, how you deliver, how you show up. How you deliver results, right? LinkedIn's the #1 professional network. So I take new meetings every now and then from LinkedIn contacts. Sure, there's some fluff in there, some spammy things, but if you can sort through them every few weeks, I find some cool things. I've found partners, I've found in business, I've found potential investors, mentees, clients through connecting through LinkedIn. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date and it highlights your professionalism. When you're in LinkedIn, make sure you have a clear method of how people should contact you, current profile picture, share relevant posts to your industry, write articles. This is like blogging on your LinkedIn, and then the other thing is you can engage. I see my slides are not advancing. Okay, well, that's okay. If you want, you could just make me full. Yeah, there we go. So the other thing is join groups that are both similar and they have differing interests that you have. And you can connect in those groups. Social media, I always tell people, you know what, you don't have to have all the social media things. You really don't. You can jump on our social media here. We're getting closer to our complete Mr. Potato Head, right? Pick 2 platforms. You don't have to be on every single platform. Just pick 2 and then start rolling them out. And if you want to do more later, okay, cool. That's cool. The other thing I want to recommend for you is to find your thing. What's your thing? If you like videos, do videos. If you like webinars, do webinars. If you like writing, then blog, if speaking is your thing, and then, do that. If you like to interview people, start a podcast. Just find your thing and then rock that. I find that people look at too many shiny things and they get distracted sometimes, but there are a lot of different options for you. Just pick one thing and really, really rock it. Okay, you got that going for a year and a half, maybe add some more other things on top of that. But you don't have to do all the things. Just find your thing, right? The next thing I want to do and talk about, press releases. Press releases. We're getting there. Press releases. So press releases are fantastic for increasing your online presence. The search engine algorithms, they rank backlinks from educational sites, from .orgs, from news sites, from government sites. significantly higher. So you should be submitting at least 2 press releases a month to an online news source. I use PR Log. It's a free source, and the news aggregators will pull it in. The news aggregators will kind of spread that press release around for me. Now remember, I am focusing not necessarily on PR and public relations here. I don't care if the news anchors pick it up or the 5 o'clock news comes down to interview me about my press release, right? I want to make sure that I'm casting a wide net on the internet and that I have some content on news sources. So press releases are a really easy way to do that. Pitch perfect. So now we see here, we're getting closer and closer and closer to our Mr. Potato Head, all right, our complete one. In fact, when it comes to the pitch is really where it's at. This is where the money's at. Yeah. This is where we get to our complete branding strategy, your analog version of what you do, right? Your pitch, how you speak to others about what you do, the body language you use, the words that you choose. This is an important thing, and one of the most important probably, because you should really just always have your pitch ready to go. And I think that if you focus on making it memorable, don't memorize some obscure paragraph that confuses people. They'll never remember it, right? It won't be natural. Keep it simple. Simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. Keep it focused and succinct on what you do. It's gotta be clear for people to understand it. And the last thing is to practice. Practice makes perfect. And you should practice it over and over and over again. You should practice it with your friends. You should practice it with your grandma. And I always tell people, go have a glass of wine or a couple brewskis with your friends and try to practice your pitch then too, and see if it comes out as flowing. See how well it comes out if you could still deliver it. And that, of course, means we have a complete Mr. Potato Head. What happens then is you have better results, and you can build a personal brand that you can be proud of, and you can have consistency in your message. So for me, I'm lucky girly girl everywhere on the interwebs. I usually wear red when I present and when I speak, and I usually try to make sure that I'm showing up in my best and I'm upbeat and I'm giving and I'm in the spirit of mentorship and sharing. And I really try to do that no matter what, even if I'm having a bad day, even if I'm having a bad week or a bad month, or it's important to be mindful of how you're showing up. It's important to really be consistent in your message and how you show up, and identify what that best personal brand is going to be for you, so you can get the results that you want from your network. Thanks so much, everybody. My name, again, like I said, is Christina Aldan. I'm a lucky girly girl. If you want to continue this conversation online, you can use the hashtag Lucky Potato. And, I'm thinking about maybe I've got some more Mr. Potato Heads. I've got some more toys. Maybe I should start Mr. Potato Head series. I don't know. But if anybody has any questions in the chat, I am ready. If you want to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence, please find me on Twitter. If you want to talk about marketing or branding or anything in my presentation, I'm Lucky Girly Girl everywhere on the interwebs, and I would love to talk to you. Thanks so much for your time today, and over to you, Dylan and Claire.